today? What's going on today? We're doing emotional self-mastery. This is the 4th part. And I want to do a little bit of review. I like to do that, get us all kind of caught up so we're all on the same place. Social and emotional intelligence is what we're talking about. And if you've been here, you know what that means, right? Is the ability to recognize, to understand, and to manage your own emotions, and to recognize, understand, and influence other people's, which I think is a very useful thing to know how to do to navigate through life. It's really just about everything. You know, our emotions, our feelings. This is where we live. So it behooves us all to understand how all of this works and how to best make use of it. So we talked about emotions being your inner GPS. You know, your GPS tells you where you are position-wise so that you can know where you're going next. And that's what your emotions are. They're an indicator of where you are in consciousness. Last month we talked about the states of consciousness and how the very lowest feeling there is powerlessness, shame, despair. And from there we move up and we move up and we move up. Things change over from force, from that negative vibe, into power when we have courage, when we step into our courage. So that's what we talked about last month and, you know, coming into this month. Your inner GPS, your emotions then are energy in motion. They're energy in motion and they are meant to flow. Just like water flows, your emotions flow, and when they don't flow, just like when water doesn't flow, it becomes stagnant. It gets stuck, it gets nasty, it gets yucky. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. So that was the first thing I wanted you all to recognize and understand, is that you need to allow your emotions to flow. Even the ones that don't feel good, even the negative, what we might call negative ones. There are no negative emotions, by the way. They all serve a purpose. They're all there as an indicator of something for you. Even anger, which doesn't feel good, at least for me, you know, for some of us doesn't feel good. For some people, anger might be up from where they were emotionally just a little bit before, right? If you're going from despair, anger feels a whole lot better. Why does that keep changing? I'm not doing that. Okay. The next thing is that by channeling our emotions, by understanding how to do that, we get to actually mold or shape the experiences of our lives. You know, that is how we sculpt our lives. It's how we create the masterpiece that is our lives, is through the use of our emotions. That's the next thing. It's not Bob Newhart. That's not supposed to be there, but that's okay. He's coming up. Then we talked about, last week, we talked about anger and sadness being two sides of the same coin, and how to be in balance in our lives. We need to be able to express and to feel both of those things. That when we're sometimes we go from a place of not just being sad, but being depressed, right? And so the analogy with that is depression is kind of like water. You know, we cry and we need that cleansing when we're sad. Well, anger is the other side of that. Anger is when, you know, when you see the cartoon characters, there's steam coming out of their ears, they're hot. You want to have both. And people go to that place of not just being angry, but enraged. So what happens when you're enraged? Maybe you need a little bit of water to dampen down the flames. And maybe when you're in that depressed state, you need a little fire to dry up some of that water. We want to have that balance. And then last week I also gave you some ideas for how to diffuse negative emotions, specifically anger, but actually the acronym I gave you could be used to diffuse any negative, what feels like a negative emotion. So I have a little video clip, and I think he explains that acronym really well. You can go ahead and play it now. Let's turn up the volume. You got to bring it back to the beginning. How many of you have seen this?
I'll tell you a bit about our billing. I charge $5 for the first 5 minutes, and then absolutely nothing after that.
Bob Newhart's a psychologist, by the way, if you've never seen that show.
That sounds great. good to be true, as a matter of fact.
Well, I can almost guarantee you that our session won't last the full 5 minutes. Now, we don't do any insurance billing, so you would either have to pay in cash or by check.
Wow, okay.
And I don't make change.
All right.
And go.
I have this fear of being buried alive in a box. I start thinking about being buried alive and I begin to panic.
All right, well, let's go, Catherine. I'm going to say 2 words to you right now. I want you to listen to them very, very carefully. Then I want you to take them out of the office with you and incorporate them into your life.
Shall I write them down?
Well, if it makes you comfortable, it's just 2 words. We find most people can remember them.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, you're there.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it?
Yes, S-T-O-P, new word, I-T.
So, what are you saying?
You know, it's funny. I say 2 simple words, and I cannot tell you the amount of people who say exactly the same thing you're saying. I mean, this is not Yiddish, Catherine. This is English. Stop it.
So, I should just stop it.
There you go. All right. Well, what other problems would you like to address?
I'm bulimic. I stick my fingers down my throat.
Stop it. What else?
Well, I have self-destructive relationships with men.
Stop it.
I don't like this. I don't like this therapy at all. You're just telling me to stop it.
And you don't like them?
No, I don't.
All right, then let me give you 10 words that I think will clear everything up for you. You want to get a pad and a pencil for this one?
Right.
Are you ready? All right, here are the 10 words.
Stop it or I'll bury you alive in a box!
Let me.
Okay, that's not what happens when you come for a practice session with me. Just saying. It did happen once. It did happen once. So stop it, right? That was the acronym. When you feel yourself getting in that space of that negative kind of energy, that thing that doesn't feel good, stop it. Just stop. S stands for stop, right? The T stands for take a breath. Take a breath. Do that right now. Just take a nice deep breath. Stop. Take a breath. Observe. Observe. Look at the situation. Look at what is actually going on around you. And then proceed. And proceed. See how simple that is? You see yourself going down that rabbit hole, that place where you don't want to go? Just stop it. Just stop it. Because here's the truth of this, and we talked about this last month as well, is that we are all responsible for our emotional state. You and you alone are responsible for your reactions and your responses to any situation. You may not be responsible for the circumstance that you're in, for the thing that happened, for whatever came upon you. You may not be directly responsible for that. But it is only up to you what you do with it.
Amen.
Right? Every situation, we talked about this, between stimulus and response, there is that space. And you get to choose how you're going to respond. Wayne Dyer said this, all blame is a waste of time. No matter how much fault you find with another, and regardless of how much you blame him, it will not change you a bit. And I challenged you all, we didn't keep it up, but I challenged you all to go for 21 days without complaining. Did anyone have any success going through a full 21 days without having a complaint? Right. But we need to reprise that and maybe get the bracelets. Right? right? We are solely responsible for our response. You know, you might say, someone pushed my button. Well, that's well and good, but how did that button get installed? Remember that. Remember that. You didn't come with pre-installed buttons. None of us did. Right? But somehow they came. All right. So just as we are responsible for the energy, for what we put out there, right? We're responsible for the energy that we emanate. I've said it many times. Everyone can bring joy to a room. Some bring it when they enter, and some when they leave. We all have that ability. Who do you choose to be? Really, who do you choose to be? I learned that years ago. From I was actually interviewing at hospice, and the panel doing their interview, and one of the ladies looked and she said to me, or not to me, but to the rest of the group, now imagine how people are going to feel when she walks into their room with that smile. And I was like, are you talking about me? I didn't know I had that power, that ability, till it was brought to my attention. But think about it, everywhere you go, there you are. Right? And you can, if you are aware, kind of not dictate, but guide the energy in that space, if you're aware of it. Right? You ever walk into a space and you know when people have been fighting in there? You may not have heard the words, but you can feel it. You can cut the tension with a knife. We've all been there. You don't have to fall into that. Each and every one of us has the power to change that, at least to shift it for ourselves. So we are all responsible for the energy that we emanate. But we're not only responsible for that. We are responsible for the energy that we allow into our awareness. Just as we are responsible for the food that we put into our mouths, we are responsible for the energy and what we allow into our psyche, into who we are. And we can control that. We can control that. This was for me, I think the way it was worded was really a big aha. From Deepak Chopra, there's lots of people who are studying this stuff right now. That just as the body metabolizes food, your awareness, your consciousness, is energetically metabolizing your experiences. Every experience that comes into your awareness gets metabolized, right, through your consciousness. And it turns those thoughts, it turns the feelings, it turns all of that into biochemical reactions. Think about that. Everything that is happening to you, isn't that mind-blowing? Yeah, when that thought hit me, that everything is coming in at you all the time. You've got all these, I forget how many millions of bits of information that are coming in at you. But what happens is your consciousness, your mind, your brain, there's all different parts that are working together to take those messages and create something out of it. And we have a choice with everything that's coming in, which way it's going to go. Now, your brain thinks in a very black and white kind of a way. It's like your subconscious doesn't know the difference between something that has actually happened or something that you've imagined, right? It's like the soil. That's the analogy that we use, right, in here, is we've got the seed, we've got the soil, and we've got the plant. Does the soil care what kind of seed you put in it? No. It doesn't matter. You can plant carrots, you can plant poison ivy, you can plant apples, you can plant whatever you want, and the soil is going to give you what you put in it. You put the seed in, that's what you're going to get. Your subconscious mind is the same way. What you put in it, the seeds that you plant in your mind, when whatever words you're saying about yourself, your subconscious mind says, and so it is. So when you're saying to yourself, why did I do that? I'm so dumb. Well, then your subconscious mind will say, you are dumb, and this is why. And it will give you a whole laundry list of reasons of all the things you've done in your past to say, yes, you are dumb. You are, indeed. Or you can say, I am confident and I am powerful. And guess what? Your subconscious says, yes, you are confident and you are powerful. And here's why. And here's why. It doesn't matter, but it's one way or another with the mind. You know, I like to say I see things in shades of gray. I see very little that's just straight black and white. But the truth is, that's not how the brain works. Input comes in, and it's going to see it as positive, or it's going to see it as negative. Remember I showed you the model of the brain where you've got, the brain looks like this, sort of kind of, this is your brain stem. And then you've got this piece in here that's your midbrain. The brain stem is your reptilian brain. That's where your instincts are. That's why you don't have to think when you put your hand on a hot stove, you don't have to think and say, wow, that's really hot. I wonder if it's hurting my skin. Should I take my hand off, or should I leave it here and see what happens? That doesn't happen. You touch it, you know it's hot, you move. You don't even think about it. You're not thinking about breathing right now. You're not thinking about making your heart beat. You're not thinking about keeping your body's temperature. All of that is regulated by your reptilian brain. It's wired to keep you alive. Then you've got that middle part of your brain that is where your emotions are, your amygdala. That's the part that's geared up for survival. That's when it's fight, flight, freeze. There's another F that goes with that. This is a family time. But having to do with survival and moving the species forward and that kind of thing. It's all about, yes, it is all about our survival. And the things that go with survival, feelings of love and belonging and that kind of, so your feelings, your emotions are in that amygdala. And then you've got the frontal cortex, the part of your brain which is where logic and reason and thought happens. So you may have, someone scares you, like I was out jogging the other day, and some guy, I didn't even hear him, came up behind me, said, I'm here, and I went, ah! And that was that fear part of my brain, right? Now, if I had let the fear continue to take me, I might have slugged him, or I might have done something, right? But then the thinking part of my head said, oh, he said, it's okay, I'm here behind you. He's not dangerous, everything is okay. So I could calm down, right? So I didn't get so afraid that I had that snap, because that sometimes happens to people. When you get so angry, when you get so afraid, you go into this shutdown mode. And for people who have PTSD, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like your brain, the thinking part of your brain and the emotional part of your brain disconnect and are no longer in conversation with one another. So you forget how to say things. You know, any parent ever get angry at their kids and go through the whole laundry list? And Jason, just whatever you are, you. When you get that angry, right? There's a whole TV show called Snapped, right? Of people who've just gotten pushed and pushed and pushed, or allowed themselves, I should put it that way, to get to that very edge, and they blow up, and they do things that they wouldn't do in their normal state of mind. Can you all relate to that? Anybody else? We've all had those moments. You say something, you do something, when you're in the heat of the moment, you have snapped. Your logical thinking mind is no longer in charge. And that fight, flight, or freeze part of your brain is doing its thing. Now, a lot of us are living in a state of just kind of constant fear. You know, we don't have the saber-toothed tigers and lions and things running after us anymore, that we have to go into that fight or flight mode. Because what happens when you get in fight or flight? What happens to your body?
It's not doing anything else.
What is the physical sensation in your body?
Adrenaline.
There's an adrenaline rush, but what does it feel like?
You're sick.
You feel sick. Tell me the feeling.
Your stomach.
The pit of your stomach, right? You get that tightness in the pit of your stomach. Your palms start sweating. Your heart's pounding. It's going really fast. You might be breathing more shallow. What your body is doing is getting ready to go into action mode. It means that you need to run, or you're going to need to get into it with somebody, right? That you've been backed in a corner. That is happening for people pretty much on a daily basis. When you think about the feelings that are happening when the boss calls you to the office, or you know you're going to have that discussion with somebody that you don't want to have, and there's this constant state of stress that we're in, and we never dissipate it. See, we're not meant to live in that state of fight or flight all the time, because the adrenaline is flowing. It is a biochemical message that your body is getting that is very negative when it's long term. Now, when you allow it to be a short-term thing, and you kick into that fight or flight mode, and you do what you need to do, and now you know you're okay, your system settles back down, and you can move on. But what happens for many of us, and it's happening more and more, we've got all kinds of folks on anti-anxiety meds and all kinds of things that are feeling this kind of level of anxiety and stress all the time. And their body is continually in that fight or flight mode, which is where heart attacks come from, and high blood pressure, and I mean, we can go on and on and on. So your brain takes in the information, and in that soil-like, that subconscious way, it goes, this is good or this is bad. And then the cascade of hormones follows that. For people like my daughter, who's a law enforcement officer, and I asked her to please do this for her own benefit and her own well-being, that as you see a lot of negativity and things that have come into your awareness, remember, we're responsible for what comes in. If you're in a position where you can't avoid the negativity, say, like my daughter as a law enforcement officer, to make sure that you take the time to do things that are nurturing to your body, that are nurturing to your system, that are uplifting, that are going to make up for all the damage that's being done by all of that negativity and what's happening to your body, that toxicity. How many of us feel like, you just have to know everything that's going on with the news? And so you get up in the morning and you're watching the news, or you're catching it on your Facebook feed, or you're tuning in, social media, all of that stuff. Think of what the toxicity that is coming at you with all of that, and how many people are just never turning it off. I know folks that have that stuff on almost 24/7. Just think of how you are being bombarded continually. And are you doing anything to offset that? Negative input from everyday resentments, irritations, and aggravations accumulates in your body as stress, burden, pressure, insecurity, poor self-image, etc. So there are the great big huge things, right? There's the betrayals, there's the losses, there are the illnesses, there's all of that stuff that might be in those suitcases this guy's carrying. But then there's the everyday little resentments that happen, right? The conversations you need to have with people you don't want to have. I had a fun one the other day. Thursday, I'm walking in the park. That's my happy place. Some people see me there. I see you there, right? We see each other in our happy place in the park in the woods. And I see this woman park her vehicle in the handicap spot up by the moms. There's only 2 spaces there, they're handicapped. I'm like, that's odd, you're at a walking trail. At first, I don't really know, other than we have to have handicap spaces, why it would be there. So I was just curious as I'm watching who's getting out of this car. This woman gets out, she looks perfectly fine. She's in her workout gear, she's gonna sweat because she's got her towel, she's got her earbuds on, and she's walking along. And I'm kind of pissed. This woman just parked in the handicap spot, and she doesn't look handicapped to me. So I'm in this, in my mind, and I'm passing by her, and I'm kind of irritated. And then she's singing at the top of her lungs in Spanish with her earbuds on. And my head says, you are the kind of person that makes us all look bad. Me, as a Latina, as a Latin woman. That there were levels and standards of behavior I know that I grew up with that I needed to uphold because I was the representation of my whole community. Donna, you know what I'm talking about, right? Donna says, when I walk in the room, all of Jamaica comes with me. Yeah. When I walk in the room, it's all of Puerto Rico with me, even though I was born in the U.S. That's what I was raised with. I am an example of my people. Absolutely. And here was this woman, an example of my people, in that handicap spot, and she wasn't handicapped. And it pissed me off. You make us all look bad. And I'm in my happy place, and I realize, wow, I'm really mad. And she has no clue. She's clueless, right? And I probably lost 20 minutes of my happy time because I was caught up in that stuff, and I realized, well, what am I doing to myself? Wait a minute. This isn't mine. Number one, this is not mine. And why does it bother me so much? So that's a whole other conversation. Then I realized, oh, why did it bother me so much? Because it was all that history.
Yes.
Right? It was all that pre-installed stuff. It was all that stuff, the button that got installed when I was a little kid. And here she was, doing her thing, pushing my button. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. But I had to think for myself, okay, I come here to feel that joy, to feel at peace. And I started my walk at that level up here. And then that situation happened, and what happened to me? And then I used my inner GPS and said, okay, I am at a state of anger. Is this where I want to stay? Do I want to have a conversation with this woman? Is it worth all that? Or do I just let this go and bless her?
Yes.
And bless her. And say, I don't know why she parked her car there. Maybe she was handicapped. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just let it go and enjoy the rest of my day and the rest of my walk. And you know, the next morning I saw her again, and she was not parked in the handicap spot. But see, these are the things. They're just those little irritations that you might not even notice are happening to you. That they accumulate. They accumulate in your system, and if you don't discharge them, they continue to be burdens like that. You keep carrying them. And then the next one happens, and you add another, you know, it gets a little bit heavier, and it gets a little bit heavier, right? And before you know it, your body is wearing the extra weight too.
Yes.
All right? This is what happens to us when we are not aware. So this is, you know, one of my metaphors. I travel light. And I do this in a physical way. It's always my challenge. I'll go away for 2 weeks, and I want to fit everything in a little carry-on.
Oh, yeah.
I do whatever because I like to travel light. I like to know where my stuff is. I want it with me. I bring it and I put it in the carry-on. When I get on the plane, I know where my stuff is. And so I've carried that into my life that I'm traveling light. And as I do more and more of this work and more spiritual practice, the weight has fallen off as well. So to travel light, what do we want to do? You want to reflect. You want to take that time to self-reflect. As soon as you hear you're saying, you made me so mad, you made me do this, you made me do that, or even you make me so happy. No one is making you do any of that. Take a look at yourself. Take a look at yourself and see, what am I bringing to this situation? Pay attention to the things that are happening around you. Pay attention to the signals that life is giving you. Are you in the flow? Little things like today, right? The music, the colors, all of that. Those are the things, the little synchronicities that tell me, okay, we're on track. You know, we're in the flow. That I didn't even have to think about it or plan all of that out. That Spirit knew ahead of time and planned it for us. All I did was step into it. How awesome is that? When you get on this path and you start to self-reflect and pay attention and do the spiritual practices, life just gets easier.
Amen.
Putting down those burdens is easy. It's easy. It shouldn't be difficult to set that stuff down. Right? Just enjoy it. And taking responsibility, which we've talked about. Take responsibility, meaning the ability to respond. That is what we mean by taking responsibility. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't mean you're adding another burden. It means that you are allowing yourself to respond in the moment to what is needed in that moment. The ability to respond. So to travel lightly, you want to reflect on yourself and take that time in the silence and in spiritual practice every day.
And stop it.
What's that? And stop it. And stop it. That's the first. Stop it. And then get into that observer mode. Self-reflect. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that self-care is your default mechanism. That self-care is the thing you do first. Because you can't give from an empty well. Right? We have to take care of ourselves. And what does that mean for you? Maybe it means that you're going to take care of your physical condition. Maybe it means that you're going to do more of the things that bring you joy. You know, I try to get out there and walk every day because that is my happy place. That's my thing. Maybe for you it's music. Maybe it's being in the garden, right? Maybe it's playing with the babies. Whatever it is that brings you joy, whatever makes you feel good, do more of that. Adjust your priorities if you're spending too much time in the other. Or if you're feeling yourself bombarded by that negativity, take the time to take care of yourself. Lots of ideas there. Kindness, choices, attention, curiosity and exploration. Community. That's another great way to take care of yourself. Right? When you can't see the truth for yourself, you plug into a community like this. A place where you're not just tolerated, but you are celebrated. And people call you to your highest and best. And people can see who you are underneath all the other stuff. You also want to use that higher order thinking. Remember that, right? Snap. You don't want to get to the point where you snap. Understand as you start to feel yourself escalate, or, for some of us it's the other way. We go into that depressive state. Oh, this thing went wrong. Oof, that felt bad. And then another thing goes wrong. And, like when you get up in the morning and you stub your toe, and then you go to get your coffee and there's no creamer, and then you're late for work, and then your boss yells at you, or some other thing happens, and then suddenly that one little thing happens, and you go, poof. Well, that's because you were not paying attention as you were starting to escalate. So, bring yourself back down before you get to that point. Use your brain, use your higher order thinking, use your reasoning. Say to yourself, this doesn't feel good. I need to put myself in timeout for a little bit. I need to take a deep breath. Or maybe I need to reinterpret the situation that's in front of me. Right? Maybe I need to look at this woman and say, it's none of my damn business why she parked in a handicapped spot. Let it go. Use my higher order thinking. Right? Come up with another reason. When I started on this path, I would play this game with my kids, right? Something would happen. Like, for example, you're driving through a toll booth, and the toll collector was snappy or nasty or snatched my money away or whatever, and like, oh, that was a little rude. And then I'd ask the kids, well, what do you think happened? Why do you think she was like that? And they might say, oh, I don't know, maybe she didn't eat breakfast, or maybe she had a fight with her husband, or maybe, I don't know, maybe she's sick. But we would make up all of these reasons just to realize that we don't know. You don't know. We come up with reasons for the things we see, and we think that's the truth. But we don't know. Make up an alternate reason. Make up something else. Something that suits you better. Something that is more, that is going to be more uplifting for you and for that person. So I thought, well, maybe she just wanted to be in the shade. I don't know. Or maybe she's recovering from an injury. But we can make up all kinds of things and realize that we're just the ones making it up. So make up something that works for you. But use your higher order thinking. Right? Use your emotions as your GPS, and then decide which way you want to go on that scale. Do you want to take yourself up? Or do you want to stay in the mix of that drama and the ick for a little bit? Because sometimes we want to do that.
A little bit.
Right? Sometimes you want to wallow a little bit. I'll own that. But just don't stay there. Don't stay there. What's that?
Don't buy
property there. Yeah, don't camp out. Don't buy anything. Don't hang out there too long. All right. Ernest Holmes said this, and Ernest Holmes is the founder of the Science of Mind, which is what we teach here at Centers for Spiritual Living. And he said this: peace is at the center of your own soul. It is the very being of your being. Right? The truth is that that's what's at the center of all of us, is that peace, is love, is everything good. And that peace has never been disturbed. It's never been afraid. It's never harmed anyone, and it's never been harmed. Right? There is a part of you that is perfect, whole, and complete right here, right now. Always has been, always will be. So how then shall you use this great gift which nestles at the very center of your being? You are to use it consciously. You are to stay awake. You are to be aware. How many different ways can we say that? That's what this teaching is about. It's about becoming awake and aware to your own life and to the power that is within you. So you are to use it consciously. You are to speak the word of peace wherever discord appears.
Yes.
And that is a choice that each and every one of us can make. When that discord, when that thing shows up, when that conflict, you are to speak peace to that. Unless you want to make it worse. But I don't think that's why you're here. I don't think you would be here if that was your intention in life. When you speak that truth, when you speak that word of peace, let no doubt arise in your thought. Know that peace stills the tempest. Know that peace stills the storm, right? Know that in that swirl of a storm, right, there is a place of calm right in the center of that storm. And you can always bring yourself to that space. And the more you work your spiritual practice, the easier it gets to get back to that place. The space between stimulus and response gets bigger. You recognize it faster. So know that peace stills the tempest. Know that your peace has all of the power because it is the peace of God that is within you. That has always been, that always will be. Bring yourself always back to that place of peace. And so that brings us to our affirmation.